Let's go, Tennessee fans. I have a harsh truth to share with you. You do not deserve to be in the college football playoff. So I've looked at this from so many different angles, and let me start with the caveat. This is how I feel about the current college football playoff rankings. Obviously, there are still a few games left to be played. But let's start with this graphic here from Vern Funquist, Chris Marler, a very good friend of mine. And as you can see, Tennessee does have the second highest strength of schedule of the top 15 teams. But when you look a little bit closer, they have the second lowest opponent winning percentage as well. So I don't know how that even happens. It's kind of weird that strength of schedule doesn't coincide more with opponent win percentage, but that's just how it is. Now, I want to also be blatantly clear that there are a bunch of other fraudulent teams with very shaky resumes. This as well from Chris Marler. As you can see, Indiana's only played one team with a winning record. We'll get to more of them in just a second. I don't think Notre Dame should be in it at all with the loss to Northern Illinois. Boise State, I don't really care. I am of the belief that there should be one group of 5 team in every 12-team playoff. Texas, of course, we'll get to them as well. They have played by far the easiest schedule of the SEC teams up to this point, and that's helped them out. And Miami is also somewhat fraudulent as they have had a bunch of results go their way. Just imagine if that Virginia Tech Hail Mary was actually ruled in favor of the Hokies. Now, I understand that you're probably wondering, well, why are you poking holes into all of these teams that are currently in the playoff that are ranked ahead of Tennessee? Wouldn't that mean the Volunteers deserve to be in the playoff? And the answer to that is no. And it'll come off wrong because my argument here on Power Hour SEC is actually an argument against the SEC itself. That's also coming up. But I want you to focus in on this last bullet point here. Tennessee and Indiana had the 2 worst opponent winning percentage of the Power 4. Tennessee's opponents rank 117th, naturally with a 420 winning percentage. Snoop Doggy Dogg would love that. And Indiana, last. Okay, so let's take a look at Indiana. And this has been the team that I've seen other Tennessee writers poke holes against. And this is where I draw the line. Notice here that a lot of the results Indiana have are blowouts in conference games. I don't care how bad the teams are. Blowing another team out is extremely hard to do. Also, there was no control over Indiana's schedule when it comes to good Big Ten powers like Washington and Michigan. They both had extremely down years. No one predicted that Washington and Michigan would be at mid or would be as mid as they are up to this point in the year. You can honestly make the same argument here with Tennessee. I would have far more sympathy for the Volunteers if their non-conference schedule was better than what it was. You played a bad Chattanooga team, an NC State team that is way under expectation. But overall, to be consistent with our last point with Indiana, notice a lot of these teams that Tennessee played are also down. Like Michigan, a traditional power. Oklahoma is awful. Florida, a down year. And you barely beat them. Okay? Alabama, this is the worst Alabama team in quite some time. And yes, you did win that game, but still, you caught a lot of teams on your schedule like Indiana that are definitely not at their peak. And outside of Mississippi State, you don't really see a whole lot of P4 blowouts like you saw with Indiana. A lot of competitive games. So you take a look at the top half. It looks pretty good for Tennessee. They're up there with the upper tier, but it's the bottom half that tells you more about this team. They have played every SEC team outside of Auburn with a losing conference record, 3 of the bottom 4 as well, and they lost to one of these teams in Arkansas on the road in an overall ugly performance. So, Vol Nation, I've publicly stated that you are my second favorite SEC team behind only my LSU Tigers. But if you want good, honest analysis, please hit the subscribe button. And I'm going to give you a warning here. I want you to leave if you can't handle the truth because it's about to get ugly. So Tennessee's biggest strength has been their defense, and Tim Banks deserves some love for the Frank Broyles Award because, look, they're a top 3 defense, whether you Power 5 adjust the numbers or not. But what I want you to do, and we'll crop it out here, 1, 2, 3, and actually, no, I didn't time that well at all. But take a look at this. These are the bottom 6 SEC defenses, and they give up 6 yards per play defensively versus Power 5 opposition. That's normally a good indicator if you've had a good or a bad season or a good or a bad game. And as you can see, Tennessee has only given up 6 yards per play once versus Georgia, and Arkansas had a 5.9, but you get the picture. But we go back to the schedule. These are all the SEC teams that are 500 or above in conference play, and these are the only 2 that Tennessee has played up to this point. Now, they'll play Vandy in a few weeks, but that could be under 500 as well. And one underrated thing about Tennessee's defensive success has been their luck. All 4 of these teams made a quarterback change during the course of the game versus Tennessee, 3 of which were injuries. So let's take this Kentucky game from a few weeks ago. Brock Vandagriff goes out for a concussion. The score, as you can see here, is still 14-10, and this would at the very least be a field goal, but the backup Gavin Wimsatt makes a 10-point shift here, throwing the football directly to a Tennessee defender, and Tennessee would go on to score a touchdown. Brock Vandagriff's probably not making this mistake. And if we're to dive a little bit deeper, many felt Jalen Milroe was banged up in the Tennessee game. Now, once again, that's mostly speculation. That's why I have it highlighted in yellow. But Mississippi State, that's not their starter, right? Van Buren, a 5'11 true freshman compared to who they had at the beginning of the season, Blake Shapen. How much of a drop-off is it? It's arguable. But still, Georgia is the only team that Tennessee has played this season in the SEC that had their projected starter play in the full game. And we all know how the College Football Playoff Committee feels about backup quarterbacks. Every result is flawed. So let's flip it over to the other side of the football, the flawed Tennessee offense. Yard per play numbers, they are 9th, which obviously isn't good in the SEC, but let's Power 5 adjust the numbers. It gets even worse. They're 11th at a measly 5.37 yards per play. That's not even close to 6. But here's the even wilder thing about it. They haven't had one 6-yard per play game versus a Power 4 team outside of North Carolina State, so 0 in the SEC. Now, they had a few 5.8s, but this is Kentucky and the crappy Mississippi State Bulldogs. Now, of course, Nico left the game at halftime, but still, let's take a look at the other 2-loss college football playoff-ish teams in the SEC. Ole Miss, as you can see, they have 5. In fact, they only have 1 offensive game on the season where they didn't get 6. That was their loss to LSU. You can see Georgia. They have 4 SEC 6 or more yard per play games. Texas A&M, who's not even that good offensively, they have 2 games, yard per play over 6. Texas has 3. Obviously, they are the number 1 team. Alabama, they have 4. All right? So it's not just that these teams have 0. They have multiple. Let's take a look at the best 3-loss SEC team. South Carolina, they have 4. And even bad teams have 6-yard per play games in the SEC. Florida's got 3. Arkansas's got multiple, as you can see here. Even Mississippi State, they have 2 6 games. Auburn with Peyton freaking Thorne, they've got 3 6-yard per play games. Oklahoma, yes, the Boomer Sooners, they have at least 1. And these are the teams that have 0. Kentucky, bad. Missouri, bad. LSU, bad. Vanderbilt, well, LSU and Missouri aren't that bad, but still, you get the point. And for reference, here are all the other hypo offenses. As you can see, plenty of SEC games that are orange, one that's yellow at that 5.9, and then last year with Milton, they had 5. Wow. So let's do the opposite of Nick Cannon and wrap this up. Look, I want you to come close, Tennessee fans. You guys know how much I love you. And more importantly, you guys know how much I love Josh Heupel. That's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about covering the Tennessee Volunteers, because I am a big Heupel believer. I think you can make a case he is the best coach in the entire conference. Look, Nothing against this variation of Tennessee, right? That's why I shared the yard per play data of the last couple of teams. But offensively, you just don't have enough for me to bang the table and give you the benefit of the doubt as a two-loss team over an undefeated team like Indiana. Now, once again, we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. And look, if Miami falls off, BYU, SMU, look, you might be in a world where Tennessee does get in with 2 losses. So if those other things were to happen, I'm totally open. And in many ways, I am very open because obviously more playoff games, more film studies, it's good for me. And of course, it's good for you. So I am hoping that things do go your way. But, going into looking at this and diving deeper into it, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the numbers to look like this, not only here, but for some other teams. Now, once again, I think a team like Miami is really flawed with the Vatek Hail Mary going their way and that weird ending to California where the Golden Bears got screwed. But look, the Arkansas result counts. And look, if Nico doesn't run out of bounds and throw to a somewhat open guy in the back of the end zone, maybe you have a Hail Mary go your way. Look, whatever the case may be, it's just hard for me to get to that point with the way things stands now for me to say Tennessee deserves to be in over undefeated Indiana. Well, but once again, we'll see what happens. Now, feel free to comment below. I have so many more thoughts on this, including how the SEC is actually hurting all of us, not only us fans of the conference, but all the college football fans, and I'll save that for another video, okay? It is Power Hour SEC. Boom! Come on, Vols. Let's go. And tonight we are doing lemon pepper chicken wings. Let's go.